Your farming, local impacts. Protect our backyard. So I'm Mackenzie here, presenting and creating on behalf of TMR with Kate and Yar, and we're here. That's our nudge. Simple as that. We need an action. We're here to get it done. All right, so what's the problem we're addressing? We need to engage Australians in identifying and reporting biosecurity risks through behavioural economic principles, which is vital to safeguarding our lands and livelihoods. All right, so these risks, they can take a hold in our farms, destroy our crops, big issue. And there's a lot of people and retail products coming in and out of Australia at unprecedented quantities, especially coming up to 2032. So we've got a lot of shared responsibility already. We've got some fantastic state and federal level initiatives. We're doing some great work, but some local level initiatives, we've identified a gap. There needs to be a little bit more there. All right, so who are we focusing on there in that peri-urban local level? We're looking at hobby farmers. So it's not their full-time job. It's not their total income. If they get a capsicum that's pink for whatever reason, they're not going to freak out. They might just put it in the bin. They're not going to report it, right? That's an issue area. Those farms could be little super spreaders, super clusters of potential risks. So how do we engage with them? Well, first of all, they're a huge area. There's approximately 60,000 farms, which is 20% of agricultural land across Australia, in a previously untapped and uncommunicated with group. So, and that's not because they don't want to talk to us. That's just because there's a lack of involvement. They're not talking to industry. They don't need to. They're not selling to the supermarkets. They might go to a local market, but they're not typically in the usual circles. So we need a new way to talk with them. All right, so who are we talking to? We've created a little persona to start scoping and understanding who we might speak with and how we may do so, which is a really important part of the step in nudging behaviour, is that level of understanding. So as we can see, these hobby farmers, they're engaged with the environment. They like the value of community. They appreciate what they have. They want to keep Australia green and growing. But perhaps they don't know what these risks look like. They're not educated in what to be looking for. And do they even really need to be reporting anything? Have they picked up the phone and called the government when they've seen some little critters on a rose that they stop and smell? Perhaps not. All right, so there's a lot of theory that goes into this one as to how we create the nudge and how we can address these people. We start with neutralization. This is the idea that, and I sum it, so there's a lovely circle here that shows many, many ideas as to why someone may choose not to engage or not to report. I like to sum it down to, if it could be someone else's issue, then you know what? It is. They're neutralizing it. They don't want to engage. They can walk past and move on. That is well documented in the bystander effect, back from Latane and Darley in 1970. Back when we were allowed as psychologists to deceive people, we pretended there was a fire in another room and there was a group of 30 people, and we waited for the one participant to put their hand up and say, hold on, something's going on. That went on for about half an hour to hours for some participants, a long time for potentially a fire to be raging on. So what's happening there? We can look at cognitive biases to understand those processes a little bit more. We can see that people are enacting their fast thinking. They're in the circumstances in the room with the 30 people. They're expecting a script of what's going on. The smoke is against the script. They're not engaging in that, hold on, we should stop and maybe let someone know. So that's where we need to start trying to engage in the slow thinking and get a little bit more of a nudge towards behaviour in front of people so that they can choose to report and engage. Now, that is personally different for all people, and that is a huge barrier. Thankfully, though, we've created a persona. We're looking into a certain subset. We know the values, and we can try and gently push this along in the area of environmental sustainability and community, a little bit of collaboration. So how do we actually do that? We look to the theory of planned behaviour, which is all these boxes here, which I like to summarize in a way to say, if an individual believes in an action, if they have a positive attitude, if they're not prevented from acting, if they intend to act, and if acting is easy, they might act, right? That's a strong might, which means we need to have a strong hold of each of these norms and behaviours and beliefs, look at the persona, and create something that will resonate with them and move forward and get them to report. All right, and that therein is a little bit of the social identity theory. So the persona, looking at people tend to believe in what people around them believe, right? Extrinsic norms beat the intrinsic norms. So how do we nudge in that area? We make it part of the extrinsic norms. We go to the idea of community. All right, and then we go to the nudge itself, which is As I demonstrated on the first slide, simple message, attached to some imagery, put some action in. All right, and we want it to be easy, attractive, sociable, and timely, the EAST principle. So the key points there, to summarize all of that knowledge, is we need to remind individuals it's easy to report. We need to connect the messaging to care for the environment and community's values. And we need to gently point the individuals towards the action. And we need to specify these approaches based on the community they're in and who we're approaching. So how do we do all this? We've created a customer journey map here based on that bystander effect I was talking about earlier, which is we need people to stop and smell the roses, attend to what is happening. We need them to define the event as an emergency, right? So they need to actually go, okay, these little creatures on these roses that I'm stopping smelling, I haven't seen them before. That's interesting. They seem to be eating the rose. Perhaps I should notify someone. Fantastic if we get a 0, but we're getting some reporting nonetheless. Now, in order for them to actually report that, they need to assume the responsibility. So we need to overcome that neutralization, get that messaging out that, you know what, we all need to be reporting. It's our backyard. All right, decide what can be done. That's where the messaging needs to align to the websites and the phone numbers we already have available and the reporting streams that are already enacted. And that's where hopefully we get the reporting action. So the community approach, I've said community a few times now. How do we do that? How do we co-design? How do we collaborate? What we're looking at here is we need to be identifying local council influencers, as people talk about these days, and find the people and values that matter, talk with people, create something that will resonate with them. That's the collaborating step. Empower them to make some action, right? Go, look, you know what, it's our backyard. If your apples are purple, maybe your neighbor's apples are going to be purple. We can't eat those apples. We need to be working together to create some action here, which is where we're informing people about what to look for, abnormalities, and reported zeros is good too, and then drive the interest in the area so they can be starting to inform and starting to report. All right, so what is the benefit of the nudge here? And specifically nudging the hobby farmers like Opal from earlier. So there's positive optics about it. It looks good. We're collaborating, we're working together. It's not just government pushing people to do. We are engaging with and moving forward. It's a new idea and approach. We're not so much in the local market space where we are trying to engage and move forward. So it's fantastic to be. It's grounded in the theory. There was a huge amount of work that I've touched on previously where it is shown that these sort of approaches, when considered carefully and done correctly, work. It gets people like Opal, our persona, to report, which is fantastic. That's what we're here for. And it touches on a lot of these themes that I've attached on the side here. We need that collaborative governance. We need every Queenslander to play their part. We are empowering them to act. It's a bright idea, and we're valuing and building on the better intelligence systems that we've already got in place. So there it is again, our nudge. I would love in future iterations to test putting a phone number down the bottom or a website so that we can be pushing people to be reporting these things because it's easy and they can do it and it's our backyard. Thank you.